The Cuyahoga County Council Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, December 6th is now called to order. Andrea, would you please call the roll?
Good afternoon, everyone. As a reminder to all in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county's YouTube page. Calling the roll, Ms. Stevens. Ms. Stevens is absent at the moment. Ms. Simon. Ms. Simon is absent at the moment. Ms. Baker.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Sweeney.
Present.
Mr. Tuma.
Here.
Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Mr. Schron.
Here.
Ms. Conwell. Ms. Conwell is absent at the moment. Ms. Turner.
Here.
Council President Jones.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right, thank you, Andrea. Has anyone signed in for public comment?
No public comment has been received.
All right. All right, well, one item has been referred to this committee, and we are going to allow Councilman Miller to chair the committee from this moment.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And we have, we'll start with these two items that have been referred to committee, and I would ask the clerk to please read item A into the record.
Resolution 2022-0419, approving the Metro Health System Year 2023 budget in accordance with Ohio Revised Code, Section 339.06D, with the understanding that the allocation of county funds to the system has been made through adoption of the 2022-2023 biennial operating budget and capital improvements program for 2023.
Okay, I would like to call Trevor McAleer forward for some information.
Good afternoon, council members. Trevor McAleer, County Council staff. Before you today is the annual Metro Health 2023 budget. There are representatives from Metro Health that will be up here shortly. I think Dave Greenspan from Metro Health will come up and introduce his colleagues. Before you, though, however, is a proposed substitute that we are requesting that council adopts before considering this resolution. And what the proposed substitute does is actually just removes names that are written within the current legislation. It says that the clerk of council shall transmit a copy of the resolution, and it lists the names of Metro Health staff. And the proposed substitute simply says submits a copy to the Metro Health system. So if the body can consider that for this piece of legislation.
Okay, thank you very much. And I would ask my colleagues if somebody would offer a motion to substitute.
So moved.
Is it? There's a second. So it's moved by Sweeney and seconded by Tuma to accept the substitute and make a diversion of this resolution before the committee. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Okay, the resolution is substituted, and it is now the version before the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If it's okay with you, I would call up Dave Greenspan from the Metro Health System.
Let's have him come forward. Welcome back to County Council, your old stomping grounds.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't think I've ever been on this side of the microphone here, so I appreciate that. Chair Miller and members of the council, Council President Jones, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak on behalf of Metro Health and our 8,000 employees, nearly 300,000 patients that we see on an annual basis, on the importance of the HHS levy subsidy that's before us in this resolution. As you know, this levy subsidy is important to help us treat patients throughout the county who are underinsured or uninsured. So I want to thank you again for the opportunity. I know you share in the importance of this levy and to those whom which it serves. Obviously, each of us, take that back, each of you has someone in your district that is impacted by the importance of this levy. So it's important and vital to the community and to the health of our community that this levy is before us and is able to be provided. So I will, Metro Health will make a presentation. It's going to be divided into two components. Sue McCarthy, as our VP of Financial Planning, will give the presentation. It's divided into two components. One, explaining the overall health and vitality or vision of where the health systems are going generally, not Metro Health in particular, just healthcare in general. And the second will be Metro Health's 2023 operating budget. So I'll turn it over to Sue to give that portion of the presentation.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time today and consideration.
Sue, if you could speak directly into the microphone, that'd be greatly appreciated. A little louder.
Certainly. Thank you for your time today. I'm Sue McCarthy, again, VP of Financial Planning and Analytics at Metro Health, and I'd like to present Metro Health's 23 budget, beginning with a brief overview of what's going on in the healthcare industry at large to provide a little context. As you may be aware, the healthcare industry is experiencing unprecedented erosion in operational and financial performance, as well as cash flow in 2022 that's expected to continue into 23. Operating margins have deteriorated significantly, driven by increased labor costs, which is the most significant challenge currently faced by the industry. Workforce shortages are driving labor costs up significantly, and many providers across the nation are struggling with finding enough caregivers to provide services. In some cases, having to delay or close services, sometimes temporarily, sometimes permanently. In addition to deteriorating cash flow from operations, cash reserves are declining. Based upon repaying Medicare advances provided to hospitals early in the pandemic to provide essential and critical services to the nation, and as well as significant market losses, which we know are being experienced across multiple industries going on in the current year. In summary, 2022 is trending to be the worst year financially for hospitals since the onset of the pandemic, and many health systems across the nation are reporting staggering declines in operational and financial performance. To add a little further industry context, I'd like to provide some recent rating agency commentary. The three major rating agencies, Moody's, Standard & Poor's, and Fitch, both Moody's and Fitch have expressed negative or deteriorating outlooks on the healthcare industry, while S&P's outlook is stable. Sharing just a few of the key comments that the rating agencies have made. Again, severe labor shortages are driving up costs and threatening the ability of healthcare systems to meet recovering demand for services. Revenue gains may be limited due to inability to meet demand because of staffing and labor constraints, and liquidity is expected to decline as operational performance is negatively impacted and the industry and the Medicare advances are being repaid. Overall, the rating agencies have recognized the very significant headwinds facing the industry, and they're likely to continue presenting challenges for the foreseeable future. In the face of these challenges, Metro Health was able to achieve upgrades in 2022 from both Moody's and S&P in August of this year, based upon sustained financial performance, including strengthening our balance sheet and cash position, margins and liquidity since the inception of a major building project, which you all helped to make happen for Metro Health and the community at large. And also that major project throughout the pandemic was delivered on time and on budget, even given supply chain issues and other issues in the local economy, was no minor feat. So I wanted to share that with you. Moving on, our 2023 operating and capital budget. For 2023, Metro Health's budget is $16.8 million of operating income and $160 million of EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, depreciation, and amortization. EBITDA is a good proxy for the cash that we'll be generating to be able to fund debt service as well as ongoing capital needs. Achieving these targets will enable Metro Health to meet its debt service obligations and continue to invest in the programs and services for the benefit of Cuyahoga County residents as well as others. Also, we're highlighting in the materials that were distributed a range of potential financial outcomes given the variability in market demand and continuing volatility with regards in particular to workforce challenges and being able to find the staff that's needed to provide the care. Moving on to the next slide, our capital budget. We are projecting $30 million of routine capital spending in 2023. The capital budget will primarily fund projects in three areas: information technology, facilities improvements, and clinical operations. With that, this concludes Metro's 2023 budget presentation. Thank you, and again, appreciate your consideration.
Thank you very much for the presentation, and I'm going to ask my colleagues if you have any questions. I'll start and ask regarding the the $16,823,000 in operating income projected for 2023, which is the target range within a wider range of possibilities. How does that number compare with what you project to be achieved in 2022 and for the last couple of years?
It's projected to be slightly better than where we may end this year, given the factors mentioned before. Compared to a couple of years prior, similarly to the industry trends, this operating margin is less than we have achieved in the last couple of years.
And what was the operating income in 2019, the last year pre-COVID?
In 2019, I believe it was $86 million.
So
it is
the
operating-
performance this year.
Operating income performance is going to be less than the baseline, again, as similar with the industry. However, I would say our targeted EBITDA for 2022 is expected to be about where we were on the baseline, and the 160 projected here for 2023 would actually be better than our 2019 performance and our 2022 performance.
Any other questions by my colleagues, Councilman Tron?
So just doing a quick math, if the $32,400,000 was not there, the 16 would be just almost a flip of that, would be the reverse of that. You'd have a $16 million deficit. Would that just be are there any other offsets that would be taking place if that 32 was not there?
I think we'd have to rethink some different things. I can't answer that directly today. In terms of the math, you're correct. If there was that much less revenue, there would be that much less revenue, yes.
Okay, and who does your auditing of these numbers? Outside firm?
RSM?
RSM, okay. And they've been your auditor for the last 5 years?
So I'm newer to Metro Health. I don't know when I honestly don't know when they were first engaged.
How long have you been with
Metro? I believe
Metro?
so, 3.5 years.
And the last 3.5 years have been your auditor?
I believe so.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Do you have any preliminary estimates on what you think 2024 and 2025 might look like?
We are planning for to maintain EBITDA at the 160 or slightly above level, and we are planning on improving our operating margin somewhat over the next several years. We have looked at it is our objective to continue to make sure there's enough money to fund capital debt service and continue growing the institution. So we have targets that we are looking at, yes.
So would it be a fair statement that while the forward-looking environment is challenging, you hope to at least maintain and hopefully slightly improve your operating performance over the next few years? Is that correct?
The goal is to continue to strengthen Metro and strengthen the balance sheet and strengthen the service we provide. And there have been many actions taken as needed to try to mitigate some of these headwinds that are coming at us and all of the industry, and we will continue to do so. And I'm confident with our new CEO in the mix, we will continue driving forward and doing what needs to be done to provide good care for the county and the community.
And what is the current reimbursement environment looking like? Are you getting any increases in reimbursement rates, or is it being held pretty steady?
In general, it's being held pretty steady. Medicare we are anticipating some increase on the inpatient side because of the increases across the nation in labor, but not to the degree that is going to cover the costs that have occurred.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Sweeney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your presentation. Just with the new facility, operationally, because I had the privilege of taking a tour, it's wonderful, state of the art. What, do you have a percentage of operationally improvements because just the facility in and of itself, because of how it operates?
I can't quantify that for you, but it is intended there will be operational efficiencies coming from the design of the new facility and how the work will be done in it, and with technology, yes.
And through the chair, operational efficiencies for patient care, but operational efficiencies within the dollars as well.
Yes, there are operational efficiencies included in the budget that we developed.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Tron.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There was reported, at least in the media, that Dr. Boutros was going to be coming to this council a few weeks ago and asking for an additional $8 million above what's been requested here. Do you know how that factors into this budget and where it was going to be utilized or anything about it?
Yeah, thank you. So at this time, there'll be no request for that additional appropriation.
Okay, but that was, is that a correct understanding that he was going to come here to make that presentation?
So in the, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, in the information that was provided to council at that time, there were slides further that that were directly related to that, yes.
Okay, and the impact on what services will not be able to be delivered because of that? Has there been identification of, in this budget, as to what fell off or what was not included, or was it going to be additional things that were going to be added?
I believe it was,
Probably talking to the mic. Yeah,
I'm sorry. I
That's
believe
all right.
if you look at the range that we presented, that was part of achieving the high end of that range. So I believe we will take whatever actions are necessary to make sure that we achieve the target in that range without that support. But
Yeah, well, Mr. Schron, I'll get back to you with more detail as to
Okay,
the
I just
specific-
didn't know whether it's 16 plus 8 and 41 plus 8, or whether there are programs that were anticipated that were going to be added with that 8 that are no longer going to be added because that 8 doesn't exist. And so this body is just, as you probably can surmise, we're going to be needing a lot of answers because there's going to be a lot more questions that are going to come forth from this body. We have an obligation to the taxpayers, and so when somebody was going to ask for $8 million just 2 weeks ago, and so it's disappeared from that request, I just was curious as to what it was representing. Is there a budget? Is there another budget outside of this budget that shows that? I would think there would be.
I need to get back to you. This is the budget that there's
Ms.
not.
McCarthy, please speak into the microphone, please.
If you're asking if there's detail behind, yes, there is detail.
No, the $8 million that was scheduled, at least as I understand it, that was going to be requested 2 weeks ago, had to have been rolled into a budget someplace. Where does that budget exist?
Well, let me do this. There are two questions here. So two things I'm going to get back to you on. Number one, how long RSM has been the county auditor, I believe, or the hospital's auditor, I believe you asked that. And the other, I'll get you an analysis, we'll get council an analysis of the presentation that was presented 2 weeks ago and the difference to this one and what the operational and financial deltas are between those two.
Thank you, Mr. Greenspan.
Okay. I would like to note for the record that Vice President Stevens and Councilwoman Simon have joined the meeting. Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I have a question, if I may.
Yes,
on
please.
The subsidy that we're considering to continue in a different fashion now, incrementally, monthly, as I understand it, rather than the 8 that I think Councilman Tron was referencing. Is this subsidy still, in your opinion, needed to carry on the indigent care that we've seen Metro do over the past, several years?
So to that, I'm going to interrupt you. So to that point, the $32 million subsidy that the hospital does receive, it takes into account about 90 days worth of, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Green.
So let me put it, so it takes into about 90 days worth of uncompensated care to the patients of Metro Health. So to put it in perspective, 75 or so % of our patients are either Medicaid, Medicare, or uninsured. So that subsidy in itself does play a major component in our financial modeling in order to be able to provide those services. And as was noted earlier, the $16 million surplus that's expected in '23, if that $32 million appropriation was not provided, would put Metro Health without any other changes in a negative position. So in answer to your question, yes, it's important to the hospital itself, but more importantly, it's important to the patients that we see who those funds help provide medical services for.
Would those patients not be served without the subsidy?
No, and Mr. Chair, I didn't mean to imply that. No, they would still be served, but in relation to the financial viability of the hospital, it would have a negative impact short of other operational considerations being taken into account.
Which might happen as well, depending on
Factors that Sue outlined as being integral or not integral, but are being seen throughout the healthcare industry.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else? If not, Ms. Baker.
Yeah, thank you, and gave me a little time to kind of look this over. How often or how precise are you in meeting your target? You have a target of 2023 of 16 million as adjusted operating income. Do you typically hit that? I know even in our own budgets, we always are very conservative, and numbers always look better than what we think they might be. So where are you typically in your target?
Over the longer haul and in general, we are very, very good at hitting our targets or outperforming them. I've shared with you the challenges in 2022. There may be an occasional where it doesn't happen, but we routinely look at that as we're doing our financial planning. We look at how we're performing compared to what our prior not only budgets but long-range plans were, and we have a very good track record.
So in 2021, 2022, and even in 2019, before things got crazy, you were pretty much on task?
We met or outperformed our targets.
Yeah, and I guess that's my question, is outperforming. We have a low, a target, and a high. Do you typically outperform, or are you, is it a leap to say that you'll probably do better than the 16.8 that you're?
I don't have a crystal ball. The challenges that I outlined, the industry challenges, are challenges that Metro Health is facing, are very real. The what's going on in the workforce and being able to staff services is a very real challenge, and labor costs are a very, I've been in the healthcare industry for more than 30 years, and the circumstances that I've seen in the past few years since the pandemic has hit this industry are just without precedent. And I know it's not unique to healthcare, but given the nature of the services that we provide, it's really a new world. And these challenges are real, and not only are you having a hard time finding people, you're having people who are burned out from what they've gone through serving patients and keeping them alive in the last few years. So I'm sorry if that was a long-winded answer, but I don't know. I can't predict the future.
And if I may, and the subsidies that I know many of us received, whether it's personal subsidies, business subsidies, PPP, all those kind of things that were happening over the last 2 to 3 years, has any of that impacted your budget? Have you received funds that you never thought you would be receiving from outside federal government money? And have you felt that impact of revenue coming from places you never thought you would?
We have had some support, as have many healthcare providers, from helping support COVID. The sources of that sort of funding are pretty much largely dried up at this point. And frankly, we wouldn't have been able to weather the storm as well as we did without that kind of support.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You alluded to reserves. What is exactly, what are in your reserve accounts, and how many multiple different reserve accounts might you have?
So I am not over the treasury function and I'm not best positioned to answer that. We can get you more information on that if you like.
I'd like to know exactly how much you have in the reserves and what different funds they are. If they are allocated towards certain debt service or certain things of that nature, I think we should see that. And also a copy of your balance sheet. I think it'd be very appropriate to see that. And as was alluded to, I know that PPP was something that helped an awful lot of organizations all across the country. And that would obviously be contributing to those reserves more than likely, or would have gone into there. So if you can also tell us what was coming to you from third party that did not come through the county, which would be the PPP and things of that nature. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman? Just a question. Do you have the breakdown of how the 32 million has actually been used in the past?
We routinely look at the cost of uncompensated care that we provide to the uninsured, and we look at that for Cuyahoga County versus others. The majority of the uninsured patients that we serve are in Cuyahoga County, certainly not all of them. And we do consistently look to make sure that what we're providing is supports the funding that you all are helping us with. And we consistently provide significantly more.
So really, just for the record, take us through when you received the monies from us. You received $32 million over the course of 1 year, is that right? 1 year, 12 increments. Where do the monies go? Do they go into a dedicated fund? Where do they go?
I'm not the best person to speak to this. We'll have to get back to you. I'm not over the accounting and treasury functions. I'm support financial planning and analytics.
What I can say to that is that the funds that do come in for this specific purpose are dedicated to a specific account. And then any drawdowns against that based on uncompensated care is done directly to that. So it's dedicated and separate from other funds that come into the county, into the hospital.
And then, Dave, do you report to the county regularly or at all about the disbursements and how and what they're dispersed?
So unfortunately, I can't answer your question because I don't have privy to that information, but I can find out the exact reporting mechanism.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask something to go with that? Mr.
Please
President,
proceed.
I couldn't see whether you were looking at me or not.
Yes.
Are we reimbursing Metro Health, or is it an advance?
So, Mr. Chairman, so if you look at, we get about $2 million a month, we being the hospital, out of the levy, give or a little more than $2 million a month. So the $32 million over the year comes in 12 increments. The funding that the county the hospital provides for uncompensated care is exhausted within the first 90 days. So in a lot of ways, if you look at the $32 million, the hospital itself is advancing money to fund uncompensated care because the rate in which uncompensated care is provided is greater than the monthly subsidy. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And so therefore, it's easy for you to provide documentation on what the funding takes care of.
I will get back to you on that, but I would not.
We can provide documentation.
If I might, Mr. Chairman?
Please continue.
When I walked in, there were a couple of things that were being asked to provide. Had someone asked for an audited or compiled statement, depending on what the industry standard is? Because that way we know what's on the balance sheet, what's on the operating income, and what the notes are for reserve funds, as well as regular funding from outside sources, whether they're state or federal or foundations. And the notes that go with them should be in that document.
We'll be able to provide you copies of the
Okay.
of the. How many?
That way we can tie everything together.
How many years back would you like to go?
Just 2.
5 years.
Oh, you want 5? I'm only going to analyze 2.
Five relates to other topics that are in the agenda or that are in the.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay.
We'll go 5 years.
So Trevor's going to do 5. Thank you.
Anything else? Councilman Tron?
It was alluded to that if this $32 million was not there, you would still find a way to do the same service. I think if I thought I heard the response to one of the questions that came up here. Is that a correct interpretation?
I would argue it's Metro's mission to provide health care and to provide health care to those who aren't able to financially support the services that we provided. The system would be in a position to have to continue to provide those services.
Okay.
There would have to be other efficiencies or other ways in order to meet the financial needs of the hospital, but those patients would still be served.
I think if I'm probing into you'd have to find money someplace else in your budget.
Money or operational efficiencies or some
Yeah,
other form.
someplace along the way you have to find it within the dollars and cents that are in that total $1.84 billion.
Correct. As in any business who's meeting its core mission, if there's a deficiency in revenue, they would find a way to provide that mission.
Okay, and I picked the low number too in that respect. Thank you.
Anything else? If not, may I have a motion to refer Resolution 2022-0419 as substituted to the full council for consideration under second reading suspension?
So moved, Simon.
Second.
Did I get both a motion and a second? Okay. Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. The ayes have it and the resolution is so referred. Item B, Resolution 2022-0420.
Resolution 2022-0420, approving the Metro Health System's policies and procedures to participate in one or more joint purchasing associations for the purpose of acquiring supplies, equipment, and services provided through joint purchasing arrangements in order to achieve beneficial purchasing arrangements for the year 2023 in accordance with Ohio Revised Code, Section 339.05.
This is a routine resolution that we have to sign off on every year, and we've asked in the past whether we can authorize it for more than 1 year, and the answer always comes back that we cannot. It has to be done every year, so that's why we're here.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To council, as Chair Miller mentioned, this is an annual resolution that needs to be adopted by the Ohio Revised Code. I have with me Mike Jones, who's Executive Director of Supply Chain with the hospital, if there are any questions that you may have about the resolution.
Questions by my colleagues.
I have a question.
Ms. Simon.
Just a question about the supply chain coming through Metro. Have you been able to withstand the supply chain issues?
Substantially, yes. I mean, we are going out there and negotiating contracts that, can continue to meet the mission and values of Metro Health and the standard of care. And we also do some forward-looking on the constraint side and look to mitigate those as much as possible.
Anything else? And we now have Ms. Conwell present. Do I have a motion to refer Resolution 2022-0420 to the full council with recommendation for second reading suspension?
So moved.
Second.
Simon Tron.
Thank you very much. It's been moved and seconded for Resolution 2022-0420. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. The resolution is so recommended, and I will refer the chair back to the president.
Thank you, Councilman Miller. At this time, we will have discussion on 5 resolutions, and Councilman Jack Schron will lead our discussion regarding our first resolution. So at this time, the meeting is turned over to Councilman Jack Schron.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's an item that needs to be read in the record regarding economic development. If we could have that item read in the record. And I'm thrilled. This is the biggest economic development committee meeting we've ever had, all 11 of us here. So thank you very much.
Resolution 2022-0445, authorizing an economic development loan in an amount not to exceed $1,700,000 to FMCFP LLC or its designee to assist with funding projects costs of a mixed-use development project located at 10300 Cedar Avenue in the city of Cleveland, which will include 199 apartment units and a 40,000 square foot first floor Meyer grocery store.
Is there someone here to speak on behalf of this in regards to the county?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Bob Flato with the Department of Development. Good afternoon, fellow council members. We're here today with representatives from Fairmount Properties. This loan request is for FMCFP LLC, which is an entity that Fairmount Properties formed to undertake this project. Do we have a slide presentation?
There you go.
Okay. This project entails a mixed-use building at the corner of East 105th Street and Cedar Avenue in Cleveland's Fairfax neighborhood, and it's adjacent to the Cleveland Clinic main campus. Oops, I'm sorry, let me go back. So this is a rendition of the finished project. When it's completing, this building will include 199 apartment units and a 40,000 square foot Myers grocery store. Regarding the project sources and uses, the cost of the project is over $60 million. Huntington Bank is the senior lender with a $33 million loan. And you can see that the city of Cleveland strongly supports this project with 3 separate loans and a $9 million HUD 108 loan, along with a UDAG loan and a forgivable casino revenue fund loan. The proposed terms of the county loaner is a $1.7 million loan with a 2% interest rate. It will be a 20-year term, interest only for the first 3 years, and the remaining 17 years will be fully amortizing. And for collateral, we have a shared second lien position with the city of Cleveland behind Huntington Bank on the real estate. And we also have personal and corporate guarantees for this loan. And then, so in reviewing the real estate as collateral, our analysis shows a strong loan to value of less than 66%. And you know, lastly, the Department of Development recommends this project for its economic benefits, that being the 199 new apartment units, along with 45 new jobs created for the county, and a Myers grocery store, which helps fill a food desert, helps fill a gap in the food desert here. I have the developer also has a presentation after this, and I can open it up to questions now, Mr. Chairman, or we can.
Mr. Friedel, let's first take the financial questions of the county, and then we'll go to the developers after that. So I think Simon is first.
I just have a question about the 45 job creation. Are those part of the grocery store that you envision, or what full-time?
Some of them are for the grocery store, and some of them are for the management of the property. I can give you a breakdown if you like.
So these aren't the construction jobs. These
No,
are actual envisioned jobs at the end of the project
These
when
are
it's
actual
completed.
new jobs that have to be created within 3 years after the project's
apartment
completed.
the apartments and the grocery store will be.
Correct.
And they'll be reporting to us about that
Annually,
number?
they'll be
annually?
reporting annually for the next 3 years, and they have to meet this job creation number, these job creation numbers, yes.
Okay, I'm comfortable with the lien, having enough equity in the property and with our, shared spot with the security.
I think Ms. Conwell, with the next questions? Yes.
Through Sean through Chairman Schron through to Fado.
Flato.
Fido. I have other questions, but I'll stick to the financial one. Are the property units sold already or pre-sold?
Are they already leased, or is that your question? Well, the project isn't built yet. It's still under
But when will you
construction.
start working on that?
That, I'd have to probably defer that question to the developer.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Yes, Mr. President?
And you said these are affordable housing?
No, this is not affordable housing. It's a market rate housing.
In a sense, what market rate is, what dollar amount for market rate?
I should probably have the developer answer that as far as what their different rents are going to be for the properties and.
We can reserve the
and
question.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So.
Ms. Baker?
Thank you. Just a little clarification on the project partners, sources and uses. Cuyahoga County, 1.7 million with 2 asterisks after that. What is that asterisk?
Yeah, I think that's more of just in the loan write-up, those asterisks were there to refer to the terms that we had in the loan write-up that you received.
It has no
So
meaning.
there's no special meeting for that.
So other
excuse it.
than the other funding pace for 9 million, and of course the bank loan, we are the largest contributor.
Well,
No.
well, no.
City of
I mean,
Cleveland.
the
City of Cleveland far
had-
exceeds us.
City of Cleveland,
Yeah, they have a 9 million HUD
yes, I
108
look
loan.
at that, yes, HUD and Easy Loan and TIF.
So we're matching the amount the city is, without the HUD 108 loan, the city has $1.9 million in other loans, and, 200,000 of theirs is forgivable.
1.9 and 200, forget. Okay.
Yeah, the 1.7. 1.5 and 1.7. Or, excuse me, the 1.5 and the 200,000 is the 1.7.
I see. So that breaks down that City of Cleveland of 9 million to most of it HUD?
Yeah, that's a HUD 108 loan, the 9 million, and there's also, there's legislation, the city has passed a legislation for a TIF on that $9 million as well.
I'm just trying to break down what actually
A
is
non-school TIF.
the city contributing outside of
Yes.
HUD and TIF. Okay. All right. Thanks for the clarification.
Okay.
Could you tell us what a PACE loan is and whether it is a loan or whether it's paid back through some tax increment?
Yeah, so the PACE loan, it's a loan that's intended for energy improvements of the building, and its payment is through the semi-annual taxes, and it's not an amortizing loan. It's like a lien on the taxes.
With the tax increment financing and the PACE, the county will be receiving less taxes.
That's possible,
You've got to
yes.
service the debt that comes from the PACE and the tax increment financing. And so generally, those are tax dollars. So you're
Correct.
doing, Mr. Hurdick, save your guy.
Councilwoman,
Please put your name on the record, sorry.
The PACE.
Please put your name on
I'm
the-
sorry,
sorry.
Paul Hurdig, Director, Department of Development. The PACE does not in any way diminish Cuyahoga County's tax receipts. It's a slice that's taken above all taxes. The TIF does diminish Cuyahoga County's tax receipts.
So I realize that this property has almost no value in its naked condition. So the increased value is going to, what are you projecting that to be?
I shouldn't have come forward because my staff knows that and I don't. But there is in the packet the loan-to-value calculation, which is based on the value as completed. And, all right.
It's a value of 54.9 million.
So we're looking at page 7, Councilwoman, Council. And that, I'm noting, was in fact based on an appraisal as completed.
So you're looking at the appraised value of approximately 54 million? So they're doing that based on the drawings?
I believe that's on the income method, because it's noting it's stabilized appraised value based on the stabilized rents and operating expenses.
For those looking for it, it's actually page 6 on your slides, not page, if you're looking for it on the slides. Might be a different page that you folks are looking for. But
Yeah, I'm sorry, we were looking
That's
at the
okay.
wrong present.
Not a problem. Just want to give everybody up to speed on where Mr. Hurdick was reading that number from.
Question is, the city will receive the income taxes, will receive an increase in real estate taxes, but it won't be the full amount because of the tax increment financing.
Correct. Again, thank you, Councilman. The tax increment financing does draw from the county's portion of the increased value. The PACE does not. But yes, the TIF does divert the increased value to tax increment.
And the TIF will be 9.
Sorry?
The TIF will be 9, or what will the TIF amount be?
You want to go
The
back to
TIF, well, the TIF was based on the $9 million HUD 108 loan.
Mr. Flato, if you could speak louder into the microphone.
Oh, I'm
Thank
sorry,
you.
the TIF is applicable to the $9 million HUD 108 loan.
So the 108 will be serviced.
Ms. Stevens, if you could, is your microphone
Sorry,
on?
it's not
Thank you.
close enough. The 108's debt will be serviced with the cash flow from the TIF.
Correct. There's
Okay.
a pilot payment in lieu of taxes on that.
Okay,
That's
thank
the
you.
non-school TIF.
Simon?
Mr.
I'm sorry,
Chair.
were you done? I didn't mean to stop. Yep.
Is the TIF 20 years?
The TIF is 30 years,
Okay.
yes.
TIF is 30. And the PACE loan, are there any payback by way of energy savings that's anticipated in that loan?
Well,
The PACE loan?
Yeah,
Those are
so-
usually associated with savings
they're
from
usually
energy.
Right, usually I mean, that's for energy efficiency improvements. So as far as what those entail or what you save on that, that's a
Don't really know
challenging
because it's
question
going to be a new
answer.
structure and a new situation, I
Correct.
think. Okay. Usually those savings go back to pay the loan in theory. In theory.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions? Do you actually have the value of what the property is on the books right now for the county as far as what we're getting received as far as taxes?
No, I don't have that. I just have what we're looking at as far as when it's complete.
Well,
I
yeah.
don't have that with me.
We were getting questions about the tax impact of this. If the value is 54.9, the current value is X, we're giving TIF, there's TIF that's going to reduce that. It still seems like there's going to be a substantial gain, or should be, in valuations that should more than be attractive to the county versus sitting there idle as a piece of land. And the other thing, not to knock our good friends at the Cleveland Clinic, these are taxpayers that as opposed to a nonprofit out there. So it is a good thing in that respect from that standpoint on the valuations of that. So it's a win-win, it seems like, from where we currently are with that.
Well,
that piece
Mr.
of
Chairman, the point was to hopefully get on the record the increase in tax.
Oh, no, yeah, that's what I was trying to get. I was trying to ask as far as if somebody knows, it would only take a matter of somebody to punch it up and find out what's on the books for that piece of for those parcels right now. And put that on the record before this session is over. There, I slowed it down for anybody who's got their hand calculators out there.
And Mr. Chairman, we can certainly get you more information.
Yeah, I think
if you'd like.
it would answer my colleagues' questions in regards to that. We're in a second position, so I think it's a great thing. So we're only sitting behind, obviously, the primary lender of Huntington, and to have people of Adam Fishman's name and Randy Ruttenberg on there as personal guarantees. It's also very reassuring. So with that, we'll turn it over to the folks on the project itself, and if they could give us their idea why they see this as a great opportunity.
It's coming.
Council President, Council Vice President, Chairman, members of council, we want to say we greatly appreciate you allowing us to come before you today and considering this matter. My name is Rebecca Molyneux. I am General Counsel and Vice President at Fairmount Properties. And I just want to give you a little bit of background on this project because it's a really unique project for the city of Cleveland and the county of Cuyahoga. This land was assembled by the clinic and Fairfax Renaissance Development Corporation over time. And then they needed a few more parcels to put this project together. Fairmount Properties was able to come in and obtain a few more parcels in order to make the project work. It is 6.4 acres in whole. This collaboration with the clinic and FRDC is really beneficial to the area. In the past, the clinic really hasn't left the clinic property, and I think it really says something about their commitment to the area. They're working with FRDC. It comes together with Innovation Square, a lot of clinic expansion that we know that is coming, and also with Opportunity Corridor. So it's just really a unique situation that we find ourselves in. And it's really a benefit, obviously, to the clinic to have this housing and this grocery store for their employees, as well as for those that live in the Fairfax neighborhood to have this grocery store there as well. Clinic and FRDC brought in Meyer and Fairmount Properties in order to develop the property. So the property is owned by an entity that is owned by the clinic and FRDC and then ground leased to Fairmount Properties. Meyer then leased a 40,000 square foot market. And this is also a really interesting concept. Meyer has not done this concept outside of Michigan. It's more of an urban market. As you probably think of Meyer, you think of this superstore. And this is going to be much more of a unique market. They take goods and services from where they are to, create a neighborhood market. So I think we're really lucky to have a company like Meyer to be able to come into what has already been said was a food desert, considered a food desert. So then there'll be housing above the market. The housing will be available for Cleveland Clinic employees and also for market residents. And then there will also be adjacent parking. We did go through some programming meetings with the clinic and FRDC for a period of time, as you can imagine. And one of the big goals was to create a walkable neighborhood. We're hoping that this is a catalyst for other walkability in this neighborhood, to be able to walk to this grocery store, large sidewalks, benches, and to get the clinic employees walking outside of the clinic and to connect to the Fairfax neighborhood as well. Housing and big box retail catalyzes development. So, hoping that it will catalyze further development here. We closed this project at the end of December 2021. Very interesting time to close a project. I think we were lucky to get this project closed at that time. It was definitely a heavy lift. We are scheduled to complete second quarter of 2023. Little did we know how much of a heavy lift it was going to be. We did enter into a GMP with John G. Johnson, our construction company. Unfortunately, because of supply chain issues, inflation, there are so many matters that are sort of outside of a GMP considered force majeure matters that have been very difficult. We've worked through consistently with John G. Johnson to keep these costs down. I don't even want to say we've value engineered because I think that puts the wrong context to it. As an example, we started out as stick built and ended up as cold form steel, which was less. So these are the situations that we've been finding ourselves in, constantly redesigning, trying to find the least costly way to construct this building. as another example quickly, and then I'll turn it over to Jeff to really get into the financial side. Our builder's risk insurance was really difficult to obtain for this project because of its location. And we went to so many different brokers and different insurers, and we actually ended up entering into it with our stick built, and then with cold form, it came way down, and it turned out it was fire concern that they were concerned about. So we have just been constantly going through all of these matters on a consistent basis to get to a point where this project can be constructible. I'm going to turn this over to Jeff to talk a little bit more about where we are in the project and get into the financial side a little bit more.
Mr. Chair, I have a question, though, to follow up, if that would be a
Sure.
quick question
First,
about
Maldonado, I
the
guess.
membership of the LLC, the entity to which we're loaning the money. Did you say is the clinic? Who are the members? I didn't hear you, of the LLC.
Sorry if that was confusing. No, the clinic entity owns the land.
Okay.
So the clinic entity and FRDC own that land. They ground lease the land to FMCFP LLC.
Fairmount Properties.
That is Fairmount
So
Properties.
one
We have a 75-year ground lease.
Got it.
So, sorry if that was confusing.
Hi, I'm Jeffrey Steck, Director of Finance of Fairmount Properties. Everyone hear me okay? Okay, perfect. I can never hear on these things very well. But I'm going to go through some slides on our current renderings, kind of where we're at in the project right now, some updated pictures, and walk through some of the high-level finance of the deal itself. This is actually fresh off the press. I'm sorry, I'll try to talk directly in the mic. But this is actually fresh off the press. This is a brand-new rendering we just had completed about a week or so ago that shows the full project looking southwest onto the property. On the northern end of the building, we have the north entrance of the development. We have an additional entrance in the back, which I'll show in the next slide. Actually, I can show it right now. This is the southern entrance, which is adjacent to a 3-story, 4-level parking garage that's also being built. It'll be between about 156 to 200 spaces. We're still working on the final numbers as we work through our budget. It is as Rebecca mentioned, it is a cold form, steel-built structure, 5-over podium. There's a 40,000 square foot Meyer grocer beneath it, of course. And I'm going to switch to the next slide. This is a shot further down Cedar Avenue. This actually shows the entrance to the apartments. So if you're heading east, the entrance for the apartment will be right there. In addition to, there'll be a walkway from the garage directly into the building. And from this shot, you can also see we have a second floor amenity deck that'll be available to all residents. Most likely, it's going to be more common area space. We haven't decided exactly what we're going to put up there yet because of cost concerns. Some of the items that we would like to add after the fact, once we have the property up and running. In addition to, you can also see loading dock area, and I don't know if you can see. Yeah, so you can also see our second floor. It's interesting. Normally, in a Class A development, your nicer units are going to be on the top floor. Our nice units that are going to rent, which we believe the highest rental rate, are our second floor apartments. They'll have around 500 square foot decks on them that you can actually see into downtown Cleveland, which is pretty neat at a 20-foot clear height. So it is something that's very unique to the market and something that's a little bit different. But probably the biggest caveat to this project is, and Becca alluded to this earlier too, is that we really had the Cleveland Clinic resident doctor profile in mind when we built these. We did do quite a bit of market study and work with third-party advisors on this. So we are really focused on creating something that is tailored to folks that are working very different hours, very high STC ratings on this to try to allow for a lack of noise. That's one of the problems with a lot of developments in Class A. They're very nice aesthetically, but they lack the functionality to really provide, a buffer for sound. So we were very focused on that, providing, darker shades, stuff of that, so people that work a third shift would be able to sleep at night and not have to be bothered by the sun, noise, and everything else. So this is really a purpose-built project. And obviously the Meyer grocery in itself, the focus there is to provide something to a food desert. So we're providing the fresh food option that is something that is definitely unique in the nature of this market. So this is really, in my opinion and our team's opinion, why we took this project on is purpose-built for a market specifically, not just riding the wave of University Circle high rents in that market, but we wanted to do something a little bit unique to the district. This picture was taken about a week ago, so we are currently 4 over our podium. We did our initial concrete pours about mid-August, and we have now completed 2 to 3 floors with actual pours on each floor and each level. We have additional 5th floor that's going to be going on. You can kind of tell we have our columns or our areas where the elevators, the elevators are located. So we are going to be going vertical on 1 additional floor. We anticipate being fully topped out within the next month, right before the weather starts to turn. So this is, currently what the project looks like. Some additional photos of some gentlemen doing some of the exterior work, some of the siding that's going to be going on within the next month or so. This is a shot of an interior unit. This is I believe this is going to be one of the micro units that we're conceivably building. As you can see, it's all cold form. There's no stick build on the interior. Next picture actually shows where the ceilings, where they'll be located. Some additional pictures of electrical work that's being done on the 3rd floor. They're actually working through that today, and the next couple weeks is providing all the utility lines up to the different floors. A gentleman is actually doing some of the exterior facade work. This is actually in the back rear of the facility. This is back around where the parking is going to be at, so they're actually working from the one northwest corner and working their way back, and we'll see some additional activity on the facade work in the coming weeks fortunately, as the weather's turning, which makes it a little bit difficult, but we are on schedule to hopefully begin a lot of the exterior work, which is really going to define and give what the building's going to look like over the next few weeks. Some more examples of just some of the work that's being done on the utility side. This is a lot of plumbing and electrical work that's being done. This is an ongoing process. We've had some utility work that's, since we started this project, just as it gives a few more examples of that. Some work that has been done over the last couple months doing the plumbing, just more the technical side of everything. This is all in the Meyer-based podium, just as more examples. And then this final slide, I'm actually going to look at my slide deck since my eyes fail me from reading this directly, but just as kind of a backdrop on the project size itself. When we closed the loan or the facility last year in December, we had about a $56.2 million total project cost. That is with inflation and the impacts ballooned to about $60.1 million. Total draws to date through November, about $22.1 million of capital. $5.4 million in equity has been funded the project, $10.3 on our senior debt facility. We've drawn 1/2 of the HUD loan facility. The $9 million is $4.5 currently drawn. And of the PACE proceeds, the lead certified item loan facility, we've drawn about $1.9 million. Total remaining capital left, the pre-funded $34.2 million, and that's just a summation of the senior, the HUD, and the PACE that's currently available to us today. So when you do the math, it breaks down to about a $3.8 million gap that exists today. And specifically, with the capital to fill that gap, we have a $1.5 million loan facility from the city of Cleveland. That's the UDAG loan that Bob had mentioned earlier, and a $200,000 grant for the Forgivable Casino Revenue Program that will be allocated specifically for Meyer and road-related costs. What we've come to request today is a match on that of the $1.7 million of the remaining piece, and then an additional equity injection by the partnership and our equity investors, roughly between $400,000 to $700,000. Noting that we are really, when we do the mathematics, and that's my job and what I spend my time on doing, is understanding, leverage and cash flow. So we really focused on a dollar amount to maximize our equity participation, roughly about 10% of the stack, and a 1.2 times debt service coverage leverage amount. After going through stabilization analytics on this deal, we're comfortable with our affiliation with the Cleveland Clinic, the strength of the local market, that we're going to be able to stabilize at a bit faster clip than normal. So it's a unique relationship we have with the clinic. So we are confident we're going to be able to maintain and produce adequate free cash flow to cover debt service and for distributions within the next, 1 to 2 years. So it's going to be, something that's a little bit more unique because of our close affiliation with the clinic. The one thing I did want to note, that, cost changes, inflation, Beck had alluded to and discussed this earlier, despite all the difficulties that we have had over the past year just dealing on the cost side, we've not had to de-engineer this project at all. Other than removing backsplashes, about the only aesthetic change that we've had to this project has actually gotten stronger from a more of a quality build standpoint. From an exterior standpoint, the build is actually still there. I, myself, and our partnership have worked very closely with John G. Johnson, our contractors, to really figure out ways to make this an efficient and a workable project. And, it's really a testament to the development team that I've worked with and to make this actually possible without actually producing a project that's, significantly different than what we originally set out to do. And obviously, from a benefit standpoint, we are bringing, a grocer to a food desert. We're creating 45 new full-time jobs, and that is exclusive to the Meyer grocer. That has been the projected number that has been provided to us. We, in addition to, will provide an additional 4 to 5 jobs on the property management side, which will include a leasing agent, a property management individual who's now works with us full-time on our staff. In addition to, we will have a full-time maintenance and like a sub-maintenance cleaning person who will also work there, and probably during our initial ramp-up, an initial a leasing agent. Just really quick on construction job numbers, because it was another question that was offered earlier. As through last November, and I think this number is actually a little bit higher now, we have produced 316 construction jobs. On the MBFB requirement, which is something that's very important to us and a goal we've set for ourselves, it is a requirement of HUD and all our city financing to have that support, which we've been working very close with the City of Cleveland, LPC Tracker, and just providing a very detailed analysis with regards to, who's working and who's doing what payments are. Our current participation is 34.27%. Of the total to MBFB and the small business requirements, which generates about $13.6 million of our adjusted $39.8 million in total project costs. That is specifically MBFB allocations. In terms of timing for the project, we are anticipating COO in late June with a delivery schedule of floor by floor through early September. So we're going to be delivering our bottom floor, our nicer, just by default being the second floor being the nicest, we're going to deliver those floors early June into mid-July, and then every week thereafter, or every couple of weeks, we're going to generate or deliver a new floor per, and that pretty much coincides with the match date when new residents to the Cleveland Clinic are going to be joining. No match day is March 17th, and then the programs begin normally mid to late summer. So this pretty much ties in almost directly for that. And ideally, we will open the grocery store at about the same time in the early to midsummer.
Questions?
Early 2023?
2023, yep.
Yeah, 2023.
I have other questions.
Sure, go ahead.
What is any project is always good in terms of economic development and jobs. I have a couple of concerns. What is the household medium incomes in this area? I don't know if you guys know that, but in any project that is being put in, you should understand that. And the Treasurer's Office, what is have you investigated what the property taxes increases would be for that low-income neighborhood, for those homeowners that are over there?
Yeah, and actually on the tax side, I have looked at some deeper analysis with the nature of the TIF, specifically with the TIF facility is designed to pay back the HUD 108 loan facility. And I can provide, unfortunately, I don't have it on my hand right now, but I've had Piper Sandler and myself have run different analyses to try to figure out what exactly the tax impact is, so I can provide some additional detail behind that and show exactly where on the consolidate, because this is a little bit unique because it wasn't, one single parcel. We had to consolidate a number of different parcels that were bought and many range of value. It's very unique. I know the clinic, I think for the front piece, paid like $1.5 million for it on a parcel that was probably worth maybe at the time $20,000. So obviously it's a little bit of a skewed analysis, but I can do a consolidation and show where it's at, the draw, or the increase from where we are at and the estimated tax values that's going to be going forward.
My concern is, there's projects, they always get benefits of TIFs and things of that nature. So I always must look out for
Absolutely.
the people that are already living there. And a question from earlier, the parking. the parking for the Myers component, will that be free to all residents?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there'll be surface parking available to Meyer residents. The parking garage I alluded to, the 100, trying to figure out what the exact number is going to be right now. It's kind of tough to do. But that parking facility is largely going to be, it's going to be the student population, the Cleveland Clinic residents, and potentially some Meyer allocation, but that's something that's still being worked out. But it's, the folks will have free parking to access the.
Because hospitals, they always charge.
Yes.
So just in the inner city, I always want to say that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So one final thing, Mr. Chair, in terms of and this is not something that maybe you can answer right now, but I have another concern in terms of how you use that as a benefit for a food desert, because we have the Dave. So I know there was a study done from the Planning Commission, the county's Planning Commission, about in terms of what the food deserts were, maybe 3 years ago. So I'm going to look into that.
Okay.
Because we do have Dave's down the street, and we have East Side Market. So I just
Yes.
want to know what is that determines what a food desert is.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Other questions? Yes, Mr. President?
On your actual employment impact, you have the MB/FB requirement was 34.2% participation, and the total contracting was 13.6 million.
Yep.
Out of 39.8 million total construction cost. Are you able to segment or separate the MB from the FB and tell us what the actual MB was?
Yes, I can. Actually, on the MB requirement, I think it's a 15% minimum threshold, we're at 16.6. And on the FB, I believe the minimum 7, we're at 7.42. And then on the small business, rough, I think it's 8%, we're at 10.21.
Did these guidelines come from the city or the county?
These, I believe, came from the city as part of the HUD 108 program.
Did you have any from the county? As I compare city and county and what they require for these type of projects, were there any from the county?
Yeah, I don't believe so.
Something we have to work on. Okay. So, and one, I appreciate all the work that you've done.
Council President, if you could speak louder into the microphone.
I like when a company comes in and already planning to do this. So,
Yes.
thank you for that. No further questions.
Ms. Baker?
Thank you. I'm just trying to get a kind of a big picture of what this looks like in relationship with the spaces that you have for lease. How many leased spaces will you have when you're completed?
It'll be 199 units.
199.
Yeah, so it's kind of a unique mix of, we're not going to have, honestly, we're not going to have that many two-bedroom apartments. And the reason for that is our sister project on this, the McCormick Barron, are going to be doing more affordable housing for the market. So we wanted to do something. We actually made a conscious effort, as being the finance guy, I'm going to sit there and look at work and I maximize rents. We decided to do something a little bit different on this project. We decided to say, okay, the clinics, most of these folks that are coming in, it's going to be first, there's going to be people in their mid to late 20s. If they're single, this is going to be attractive for them. If they're not single with a family, it's probably not going to be the best option. The fact that, FRDC is our partner on this project, FRDC we're not partners with them on the McCormick Barron project behind us. I forget the name of what they call it. I can't recall. Yeah. Yeah, but we wanted to do something that was not in competition. We wanted to do something that was a little unique and a little bit different. So they were building stuff that is affordable housing. We're building stuff that's more market rate, that's, built, earmarked for the clinic.
So if I may ask, what is market rate? What type of leasing are you looking at for these 199 unique spaces?
So on our average rents, and, it's funny because it's more of like a proprietary knowledge stuff because, it does change a bit. We are at about $2.93 a square foot is my average rent right now, which is comparable to, I always use Inova as kind of my base example. It's just the apartment I think that I would consider a pure play comp. This is at current market rents. We are not expected, we're not using, okay, I know where it's at today, I know where it was at before. Obviously during COVID, a lot of the rents were kind of held at stasis. They've now started to really step up. I have a relationship with the brokers that are actually involved on the transaction side, so I have a pretty good pulse on what, market rents are trading at. We do work in conjunction with a lot of third-party brokerages and work with other outside property management companies and really derivating rents. And it's amazing, I used to live in University Circle myself, and it's amazing the rent growth we've seen, but it actually is still been able to hold a very solid number, which is respectable.
So the 199 units at $2 a square foot, how many square feet on the average are these units, just to get an idea of what you're leasing?
It's about 600 square feet a unit, yeah.
600, so they're pretty small. One bedroom.
Yeah, they're one
bath.
bedrooms. There's micro concepts, studio concepts. So yeah, they are efficiencies, like what I call efficiencies.
Okay. And the parking, how many parking spaces did you say there would be?
On the surface, I do not recall.
For those that are renting the space, do they use the parking garage?
Yes.
Okay, so how many parking spaces are in that parking garage?
It was originally 200, but when we've worked through our hard cost number, it could come down. We're still doing some study work to figure out what is the ideal mix. We don't think we're going to have to need it one for one, just because a lot of the folks are not going to have cars based on the survey and work that we have done. Not to throw the clinic into this, but the clinic does have other parking that we could utilize if needed. But the concept right now, we're going to say between 170 to 200 parking spaces in the parking garage.
So you're really banking on the people that lease from you do not need a car space?
In theory, yes. It's not going to be one for one.
And that most of that parking then will be needed for those that travel to the grocery store?
Yes, for the surface parking, yes, that will definitely be allocated specifically for. So if you're a resident, you cannot park in the surface lots.
How many slots are there for the surface?
That's the number I don't recall. A little over 100.
And if you said earlier, these are residents of the Cleveland Clinic, these are those that are learning and going through training and all. You're not looking at the doctor that is established and needs a second place because he has to be there at 6 a.m. or earlier for surgery.
We are because we only have really 10 apartments allocated for 2 bedrooms. We're obviously we're not going to discriminate, but if there's an interest there, because the 2 bedrooms will be on the pricier side, we do foresee that being an option for someone that say lives in Rocky River or on the west side of Cleveland who doesn't drive on 90. That this would be an option to them, which would be part of our currently kicking off pre-leasing campaign. But there is definitely interest, and there's also interest from the clinic in short-term housing. So there's quite a number of different avenues that we have open to this for potential lease-up.
The 40,000 square foot grocery store, is it primarily going to always be a grocery store? There's no thought of turning it into a multi-clothing, whatever?
No, that would not be the ideal use. You actually, it's better in terms of exit valuations, not getting too technical, but in terms of valuations, you will get better bang for your buck if you keep it a grocery store because that's what people want. At 10 o'clock at night, you're not going to go buy a shirt, you're going to go get something to eat. So it's definitely, it's a huge value add for projects.
Okay, and 40,000 square foot, is that the average grocery store size?
Yes.
Okay, I think we have one more question for the council president. Oh,
Yeah, just one question on that last point, the square footage of the grocery store, your others, Myers, that same size. I was told this would be much.
Oh, it's much smaller. Yeah, this is not. If you go out to Avon and other locations, actually, one that's getting built in a project that we're partners with also, that's 160,000. But that includes a huge grocery store plus, say, like a Walmart style clothing, home goods type of thing. This will not have home goods. This is a grocery store. Fresh food, prepared foods, that's the focus here.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr. President?
You mentioned briefly that you have a sister company that will do affordable housing. You mean in that area around the supermarket?
Yeah, it's a partner of ours. A local CDC, FRDC, is doing their project behind. They're affiliated with us because they have ownership. We are ground leasing the clinic and that group. So they have a project right adjacent behind ours that's affordable. We have no investment on that project. We are not direct partners on it, but we are affiliated because it's our neighbor and we want to.
Fairfax Renaissance
Yes.
Development Corporation?
Yes.
The other ones? Okay. All right, thank you.
That one showed up in that photograph number, which is on slide number 4 on the right-hand side. Is that the adjacent building? I assume that.
No, we actually do not have that.
Okay, so I see another building in the distance. I just did not know if that was.
Yeah, there's the parking facility that's behind it.
That is the parking garage.
Well, I see the parking facility, but I just saw another building.
Yeah, I don't know what, because
Well,
there's the office facility. Yeah, I do not.
okay.
Oh, the U shape. Yeah, that's actually that's still our facility. That's just, we have a kind of a U and then we have the amenity deck. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
I
Is there
see.
any other questions? Hearing no other questions, the chair will move, does this need to be second reading?
Actually, Mr. Chair, and with the support of the council, we're requesting passage tonight, first reading.
Okay, all right. The chair will move that this move forward for the full council agenda for a first reading approval. Is there a second?
And I'd
Mr.
like to
President?
second, and
Second.
this is actually,
President?
I only live a few blocks from this project, so I'm excited to see it come to fruition, and I'm just
Okay.
congratulate
And you have a
all.
new grocery store? There, okay. Any,
Mr. President?
any other discussion?
Council President and Mr. Chair, this is just discussion. We're not voting on these items.
No, but we have to move it out of this committee, do we not?
No,
No,
Oh,
it hasn't been,
correct.
it has not been introduced formally.
Excited for you. We're on discussion.
Sorry about that. Okay.
No, yes.
Never mind. Okay, all right, so there being no other questions, I'll hand the gavel back over to the chairman, the president.
It's time for the remaining four items, well, not for all the remaining, but for the next three. We'll turn the gavel over to Mr. Miller so that we might have discussion. And again, colleagues, we have the last 20 minutes of our hour we want to save for our ethics training. So we'll use these next 40 minutes to go over these next four items. So let's govern our time.
Thank you, Mr. President, and hopefully these three items are fairly routine and like the one we just heard. These are items that we're just having an initial discussion on at this meeting, and if we support the items, then we can consider passing them under first reading suspension tonight at the council meeting. Resolution 2022-0446.
Resolution 2022-0446, authorizing a memorandum of understanding with State of Ohio Department of Administrative Services, Office of Information Technology, in the amount not to exceed $560,000 for software licenses, network connectivity, data storage, and backup on an IBM LPAR mainframe for the period September 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2023.
Good afternoon. Robert Knoll, Department of Information Technology. So this item is to continue services and access to the mainframe that is situated in Columbus and the state's data center. The mainframe is where the county originally housed Famous, as well as some other applications. Famous data will be transitioned to the data lake in the first quarter of 2023. However, there is one application that is currently not planned to migrate from the mainframe. This is the sewer sanitary application. The team is reviewing alternatives to move this application, but so far, the options that we've explored are actually more costly than our request here today. The MOU picks up where the last agreement was left off, thus the time frame of this contract. Unfortunately, we did not receive the contract from the state until 11/2/2022, which is when we started processing this contract. This is a month-to-month contract, and we have a 30-day out clause should we be able to migrate this application from the mainframe, and this rate has not increased from prior years.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Any questions by my colleagues? Hearing none, this item will be up for consideration at tonight's council meeting. Resolution 2022-0447.
Resolution 2022-0447, authorizing a contract with Woolpert, Inc., doing business as Data Clouds Solution, in the amount not to exceed $386,000 for integration of CamaCloud software platform appraisal technology for use by the fiscal office, effective upon signatures of all parties through December 31st, 2025.
Good afternoon, Lisa Rocco, Fiscal Office. The Data Cloud Solution software will provide software that will allow our appraisal staff to perform their statutory requirements of annual maintenance, data collection, and valuation in the field, and it is used in a number of counties in Ohio, including Franklin County and Lucas County.
Questions by my colleagues? Yes. Ms.
Just
Baker.
curious, what was used before this? Is this the same, or?
No, we're doing it all by hand. So now we're going to integrate that we can do it with tablets out in the field and have real-time access to the information through the cloud.
Wow, so you were doing it all by hand?
Yes.
You mean paper and pencil?
Yes.
And now you're transitioning to a tablet.
Yes.
Why did it take us so long to realize that?
It didn't take us so long, it was just the timing. And so we have approached this vendor. They're part of the state purchasing contract, but he has been involved in New York City. He just upgraded all 5 boroughs, and he was not available. He also did St. Louis, so now it's our turn.
And, you know, appraisals can be questioning. I mean, this is kind of they don't always agree.
Correct.
So how does doing it by paper, pencil, perhaps might be a little more hands-on, where what is the difference in how it appraises? Is there a difference? Is it more taken by different theories of what something's worth, or, I mean, how is it going to be?
First off, Mike Chambers, fiscal officer. Remember one thing when we talk, we're doing mass appraisal.
Yes.
We're not doing residential, your home equity loans. We're doing mass appraisal.
Okay. So
What
neighborhoods.
What happened a couple years ago for our update, we took only sales value. That's what the law required. That's how we followed it. This time we have to physically go out into the field and view approximately all 600,000 parcels. In the past, they had these big paper books, and they were trying to jot their notes. Then they would come back in and give it to secretaries to start typing in and make these adjustments. All of that data now is on the cloud, and it's going to be on these tablets. Well, I should say will be, but that's the plan. So it's really, we do mass appraisal. I just want to define that first, because it's not the same. We don't go inside the houses. We don't know. It's what we view on the outside.
And is there any differences between how it was done manually in mass appraisal and how it is going to be done with this technology that may look at it differently or judge it differently? Or
Ideally, the same process is going to happen. They're going to have the individuals going out and visit, there's a team of 3, is there not?
Correct.
There's to be a team of 3 appraisers going out. They'll each do a different method. But the big difference is everything was done on paper. It would come back in. Now they'll be able to do it right in the field and make those changes in the field. It's going to save us an enormous amount of time. And as you know, time is labor. It'll help us save money in the long run.
yeah, there's no question it's going to save you time
Yes.
and efficiency. I'm more on the homeowner, and will they see a difference in what they think it would be appraised for before, and what different
Once
theory
again,
or-
now,
yeah.
I'll go back to what I said. This is mass appraisal. We don't know if you have gold, countertops. When you go to sell it, that's what market value tells you, and then we eventually adjust our records accordingly. But we're doing what is known as, mass appraisal, and Lou's the expert on it. I'm just, winging it. Go ahead.
Lou Gentili, I'm with the fiscal office. So, yeah, the biggest difference between mass appraising and fee appraising is the fact that we do not get in the house. We're appraising globally. We try to equalize, neighborhoods so that everything is valued equitably. And that's what we're charged to do with the state of Ohio.
So if we do a neighborhood and there is a mix of housing, one house might be worth $100,000 and neighbor's house might be worth $250,000, and then you go to the next neighbor who has a very small, less than when you do it in mass like that, and you take an average of the neighborhood, how do you?
No, so when you go out into the field, the particular home, if you're looking at it in a neighborhood that has a lot of diversity with it.
Yes.
So the houses that are used as comparables, that's actually what the software allows us to do on the fly. We can look at things in the field and then run multiple regression analysis on the fly in the field to pull comparables that are closer to the subject. So it actually eliminates a lot of the anomalies that occur when you have a neighborhood that has properties that were built at different times, different styles.
Right.
And the appraisers have the ability to alter the stuff, in the field anyway. So, yeah, we do look at, the houses individually, but we also, when we go out into the field, the modeling and everything is done consistently across the neighborhood. But this will allow us to actually hone in on things in a little bit more finer detail.
So in your opinion, this technology will actually be better than what
Yeah.
it is
Oh,
with
yes.
people out there looking physically at a mass of houses and neighborhoods, walking it?
Yes.
Am I understanding
yes.
that? Okay,
The results should be significantly better.
thank you.
So, I have a question. We did an unsuccessful project with Harris, a tax and appraisal system. And my question is whether this technology has anything to do with or any overlap with that, or whether this is entirely different technology.
This is entirely different, and this will be able to, when we do decide what we're going to do in the future, this software will be able to merge with any of it. So it's a standalone solution that can merge to, be incorporated into whatever we do in the future.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, this item will also be up for consideration at tonight's council meeting. And next, we have Resolution 2022-0448.
Resolution 2022-0448, authorizing a contract with Woolpert, Inc., doing business as Data Cloud Solutions, in the amount not to exceed $1,155,690 for CamaCloud software platform, hardware, services, softwares and licenses, and maintenance and support for use by the fiscal office, effective upon signatures of all parties through December 31st, 2025.
Lisa Rocco again, Fiscal Office. This cost will include the licensing for both the cloud and the software. Hardware, they're providing 63 tablets, so the purchase of those and the configuration of those for all 600,000 parcels in Cuyahoga County. And then it will also include 3 years of annual maintenance at a cost per year of $253,980.
And is this a new contract, or have we had this service before?
It is a new contract.
And what is it replacing?
It is not replacing any, it's enhancing our current CAMA system, our computer-assisted mass appraisal system.
And I would ask the same question I asked about the last one. Is this covering some of the same things that we were trying to do with the Harris system that we decided to abandon?
This is for our CAMA system. Both items are together. IT just broke them out between the software and then the licensing and hardware. So as the fiscal officer said, this will go with any CAMA solution that we decide to move forward with in the future.
So this is different technology. It has nothing to do with the information system to
That is
support the
correct.
property tax system. Is
Yes,
that correct?
that is correct.
Questions by my colleagues? Okay, thank you very much. This item will also be up for consideration at tonight's council meeting, and I'll turn the gavel over to the council president with plenty of time
All
to
right,
spare.
thank you, Councilman Miller. At this time, we will turn the meeting over to Councilwoman Sunny Simon to deal with our final item.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I'm wondering, or ask our clerk to read item 2022-0449, please.
Resolution 2022-0449, authorizing an amendment to a contract with Child Care Resource Center of Cuyahoga County, doing business as Starting Point, for out-of-school time services for youth for the period January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2022, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2023, to change the scope of services effective January 1st, 2023, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $1,900,000.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Kathleen Thomasak, Deputy Director of Family and Children First Council, representing Robin Martin. This is a contract amendment for out-of-school time with Starting Point. This is going to provide services for them to be the lead agency for the coordination enhancing and maximizing the existing out-of-school time, after-school programs, and the summer program for children and youth in Cuyahoga County. The services provided in the contract are to provide all of the out-of-school time programs, which are including but not limited to tutoring, kindergarten clubs, a screenwriting contest, post-secondary access service, social support and wellness, and workforce development for youth. The ages range from kindergarten to 12th grade with a small population of up to 24 years old. There are approximately 10,000 out-of-school time slots in Cuyahoga County, which are funded by private pay or other funding sources. The funds used by Family Children First Council through Cuyahoga County pays for approximately 3,500 slots for existing programs to those 32 neighborhoods, and includes approximately 50 different agencies through Cuyahoga County. Starting Point holds a request for services proposal, which is similar to our RFP process, to get the vendors to provide those services. In more detail, the $1.2 million is used to fund the out-of-school time slots, and then the $700,000 is used to fund the following areas specifically. One is for a database person for the social solutions effort to outcome person, which is a one full-time position. And that's also to review one of the surveys called the DAP, which is the Developmental Assets Profile, which is a pre- and post-test survey that the children are asked to complete, and as well as their parents. The one program is called Art of Me, which is the screenwriting contest. There's several transition programs that are provided. There's a third grade reading readiness program, the college preparedness program, which is like could be the FAFSA preparation classes. The kindergarten clubs are held through the libraries throughout Cuyahoga County. There's also a soft skills and workforce preparedness program in the 7th and 8th grade, which is like their job readiness program. How do you answer the phone calls, some testing, and how do you do your resume to prepare them for more in-depth workforce programs. And we also pay for the Summer Bridge program with CTAG. I'll be able to answer some questions at this time.
Thank you very much. Any questions from council? Councilwoman?
Sorry, Andrea, 10,000 slots, but
Yes.
you said that's overall in the county. How many do the county pay for? You said
3,500.
Okay, so that's the only thing that we fund for. Who funds, I know you said 50 agencies, but who takes up those other gaps?
So the 10,000 slots are what is available in all of the out-of-school time programs. So what we pay for with the 1.2 million is for those 3,500 slots.
And who's that geared toward?
Any and all Cuyahoga County residents, the youth in Cuyahoga County.
Okay, not specifically if we have children in our care or anything like that, that's
No.
separate. That would be a separate budget,
No, that could
correct?
be paid for. We don't know, honestly. We don't ask. We don't go by income guidelines when it comes to out-of-school time program. That might be something that Starting Point might has information on, and I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. But we provide services throughout all of Cuyahoga County, regardless of your income when it comes to out-of-school time.
So what all do we know about the 3,500 time slots? It costs 1.2, we're not collecting any data at this point?
No, we collect a lot of data.
Just not an income or?
It's not income driven, no ma'am. You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Sure.
Council President?
I just think I can visualize the CTAG component.
Yes, sir.
So tell me, tell me the interaction that you have with CTAG again and the service provided, and that'll help me visualize what you do.
Okay, so we pay for the Summer Bridge program. I know specifically like Reading Ram comes in and does a program. There's I want to say like 6 other vendors that come in specifically for the summer programs for CTAG. I do not know them off the top of my head, to be honest with you. But I can definitely find out and tell you. So they come in and they work with whatever youth are participating in the Summer Bridge program from the CTAG schools and work with them, I think, for 6 weeks at minimum.
What type of work do you do? So these children, obviously it's the summertime, so they're not in school.
Yes.
So they're in preparation for the next school year. You're meeting with them, so obviously they meet with you. Where do they meet and what do you do with them?
So they work with the whatever vendor is assigned to them for certain parts of those 6 weeks of their programming. So they might work with Reading Ram one week, and they might work with another vendor another week, and another vendor the next week, and they participate in that vendor's program for whatever length of time they're assigned. So it's like handoff, like a summer camp program, like a regular summer camp program, but they just do whatever the vendor specialty is, and then they move on from vendor to vendor, so they have something to do during that summer if they're not working or whatever, if they're not out of town or something like that.
1.9, you use a portion to provide that service to the children during the summertime.
Yes, we pay for the whole program for the Summer Bridge program, and then just to clarify, the 1.2 million is to pay for any existing program. We don't pay for any startup programs. You have to be existing and proven to be a well-rounded, functional program with the dollars that we use.
Obviously, those are 9th through 12th, high school age for that component.
Correct.
Age groups or?
So it could be, so for example, for the 3rd grade reading readiness program, that's to make sure that they're able to pass the 3rd grade testing that is across the state. But the kindergarten clubs, those are to prepare kindergarten or 5-year-olds to be ready to be in kindergarten and to move on. That's part of the transitions program. With the workforce development, again, they're targeted for 7th to 8th grade, and that's to teach them soft skills. As far as college readiness, they can take the classes for this of how to prep for the FAFSA test, and they work with College Now for that program. With the Art of Me, each school that participates has a screenwriting contest, and if they win that contest, then their screenwriting, not screenwriting, but their what is the term? So their story that they write gets turned into a film, and it's previewed in the Cleveland Art Film Festival, or it could be previewed in New York, and they bring in different well-known directors and producers to help produce that film later on, and it's usually around some kind of social justice or whatever topic is hot at the moment with the youth in the program, and that's usually geared towards our high school student. So we try to touch on every grade level in what services that they need. Or it could be a music class, whatever need the neighborhood has. That's why the lead agency is Starting Point, but that's why they put out the RFSP, to see what that neighborhood needs. So it's to fill that gap of what that neighborhood doesn't have, that they're not getting in school, that they're not getting from maybe the Y, that they're not getting from their rec center, but what the neighborhood has said that they want to have with their kids within their neighborhoods, and to keep them, out of trouble, and to keep them busy. So that's what the neighborhood chooses, what they want to have. So it could be like music settlement for music classes. It could be during the summer, there's a football program or some kind of sports program that they have.
When you say neighborhood, give me a sense of some of the stakeholders who are the neighborhood that are giving you this information.
Sure, just give me 1 second. Let me find that list. We have 32 neighborhoods. We have Brooklyn, Buckeye Woodhill, Central, Clark Fulton, Cleveland Heights, University Heights, Cudell, Detroit Shoreway, Downtown, East Cleveland, East Tech High School, or East Tech Cleveland area. There's multiple neighborhoods in Cleveland, of course. Euclid, Collinwood, Nottingham area, Fairfax, Glenville, Huff, Cam's Corner, Lee Harvard, Maple Heights, Mount Pleasant, North Olmsted, Old Brookland, Parma, Richmond Heights, Shaker Heights, Slavic Village, St. Clair Superior, Tremont, Union Miles, Warrensville, Woodland.
I got you.
Okay.
I got those.
I'm sorry.
Those are the neighborhoods.
Thank you.
I imagine you just use the CDCs or that represent in each one of those cities or something like that. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're
Very thorough.
welcome.
Thank
Thank
you. Thank you, Council President, Ms. Thomas. Any other questions? So we do not have to vote this out of committee. This was for discussion purposes. It will be heard at the council meeting on first reading, hopefully adoption. So thank you so much. You were very ready to answer all our questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. At this time, our miscellaneous business. This is our HR training. All right, so we will, again, our mandatory annual ethics training in accordance with section 403.01 of the Cuyahoga County Code.
Minutes. Thank you. Kathy Jackson, HR. Council members, President, it is time for, as you said, 2022 ethics training. The presentation will be approximately 20 minutes. And then after that, if you have any questions, I'm here for you. We'll get started for you. Kathy Jackson.
My name is Alexa Beeler, and I am the Inspector General for Cuyahoga County.
And my name is Mark Cutright. I am the First Assistant Deputy Inspector General.
Welcome to your 2022 ethics training. As a county employee, elected official, or board member, you are required to abide by the Cuyahoga County Ethics Code. These rules set high standards and are in place to ensure that we are conducting ourselves in a way that promotes integrity, trust, accountability, and transparency in county government. This means that we are held to a stricter code of conduct than those in the private sector. Sometimes, what may be okay while working for a private employer can be a crime in public employment. So it is critical that you understand the ethics rules and reach out to the Agency of Inspector General before you act if you need any help navigating the topics we will be discussing today.
Please keep in mind that in order to receive credit for your ethics training, you must answer at least 70% of the questions asked in this training correctly. You must also add your digital signature at the end of the presentation, acknowledging that you understand and agree to abide by the County Ethics Code. Thank you for your time and for all the great work you do for the county.
The Ethics Code governs how we use county resources and instructs that they be used for county purposes only. County resources include everything the county owns or pays for, from paper clips to county-owned vehicles. This means you can't use county property or supplies for your personal or private use. County resources also include personnel and your time. The county is paying you for your county work with taxpayer dollars, so it is imperative that when you are at work, you are working. This means that personal matters and conversations should be handled during lunch or outside of work hours, and that your clock in and clock out times should accurately reflect your start and end times for the workday. When it comes to county time, a good way to keep yourself honest is to act like someone is watching, because even if your supervisor isn't, you can bet that your coworkers are. This is a frequent complaint our agency receives because county employees who are doing the right thing don't like to see county employees who are not.
There are a few exceptions where the use of county resources for private or personal purposes will not be an ethics violation. If the use is authorized by law or county policy, or if the county resource was provided to you as part of your official compensation, then it's okay. Also okay is de minimis use of county resources. When you look at the dictionary definition of de minimis, you'll find things like too small to be meaningful or taken into consideration, immaterial, and so minor as to merit disregard. What that means in practice is that a 5-minute personal call on county time or using a paperclip or staple for personal use would not be a violation of the Ethics Code.
However, we caution you to be careful. Even though the Ethics Code allows a de minimis use of county resources, you don't want to find yourself in a situation where our agency is looking into your use of a county resource to determine whether or not it is de minimis. It is always safest to err on the side of caution. Also, just because the use of a county resource is not an ethics violation does not mean that you are always in the clear, because you also have to comply with other county policies. Your supervisor may have stricter standards, and it is important to note that even a brief digression from your work duties to browse the internet may be a violation of the county's internet use policy. And there are some things that you should never do with county resources, even if de minimis, such as using any amount of time or tangible resources for non-county business or political activity.
The county has approximately 5,000 employees, so it's not surprising that we have employees who are related to other employees. The Ethics Code defines relative broadly and includes your spouse, domestic partner, parent, grandparent, step-parent, sibling, step-sibling, sibling spouse, your child, your grandchild, your stepchildren, uncles, aunts, nephews, nieces, first cousins, and household members, and anyone that has any of those relationships to your spouse or domestic partner.
Having relatives work for the county is not by itself an ethics violation. However, you cannot have a relative in your chain of command. No employee may supervise a relative or participate in any way in a decision to appoint, hire, promote, discipline, or discharge a relative for any position of the county. This means that even being a part of this discussion is strictly prohibited.
If you have a relative that works for the county, you must disclose that relationship to the Agency of Inspector General by completing a nepotism statement, which can be found on our website.
Your position with the county should only be used to benefit the county and should never be used to secure a financial or material benefit or a promise of a financial or material benefit for yourself, a relative, a business associate, or a private organization that has any relationship to you, your spouse, or a member of your household. If you are ever faced with a situation where your work with the county could secure a benefit to you or a person or organization related to you, you must not act, and you may need to take the additional step of disclosing the issue, which we'll talk about in the next slide. And as always, if you are ever unsure, please come to us for guidance before you act.
Supervisors should not have their subordinate employees do personal tasks for them. You cannot require or coerce a subordinate employee to perform any task unreasonable outside the scope of his or her county employment that does not further a county interest. This includes things like picking up your dry cleaning or lunch and performing clerical or other work on your behalf, on behalf of your family, your business, personal or political interests. Supervisors may, however, ask their subordinate employees to perform non-county tasks on personal time, as long as they offer just compensation for the performance of those tasks. Be mindful that subordinate employees typically aim to please their supervisors, so they may not feel as though they can say no to such a request and might feel pressured to say yes, even if that wasn't the intent. For this reason, excessive requests by a supervisor to perform tasks unreasonably outside the scope of a subordinate employee's county employment may constitute a violation of this section, even if just compensation is offered.
The Ethics Code also breaks out a few specific examples that are considered to be a misuse of official position. For instance, you cannot knowingly misrepresent your personal opinion to be the official position of the county, nor can you have the county pay for you to attend a conference and then fail to attend without obtaining approval or refunding the cost to the county. Also, as public employees, you are bound by Ohio's Sunshine Laws, which means you have an obligation to make public records available for inspection or copying and cannot destroy, manipulate, or suppress public records. Confidential information, on the other hand, must be kept confidential forever. You are never allowed to disclose any confidential information you obtained during your county service, both while you are serving the county and forever after. You are additionally prohibited from accessing any information that's not related to what you're doing for your job, and you absolutely cannot use any information you learn to benefit yourself.
As public servants, we have a responsibility to make public decisions objectively with the county's best interest in mind and not based on our own interests. Conflict of interest occurs when you have an interest on both sides of a matter. You could have a conflict of interest if your personal interests or the interests of relatives or business associates could compromise the decisions you make in your county position. For example, let's say the county decides it wants to purchase new chairs, and you're one of the county employees in charge of selecting the chairs. Let's also pretend that your brother owns a local chair company and submits a bid. You would have a conflict of interest because doing what's in the county's best interest could be impaired by the interest that one of your relatives has in the outcome.
Having a conflict of interest is not illegal, and in fact, they are actually quite normal because public servants have families and friends and may have businesses and other connections to the community. It is how we respond to the conflict of interest that matters. Anytime a matter involving the exercise of discretion comes before you that could result in a direct financial or material benefit to you, your relative, your business associate, or any private organization in which you have an interest, you are required to disclose and recuse. The disclosure must occur as soon as you first learn of the potential conflict of interest, and it must be made either to the public in an open meeting or in writing to the Agency of Inspector General. You must then recuse yourself from the matter by fully and completely abstaining from making decisions about or influencing how the matter is resolved. This includes refraining from not only voting, but also from discussing, reviewing, recommending, inspecting, investigating, or taking any other action on the matter or participating in any way whatsoever.
Additionally, you cannot be compensated by a non-county entity to perform services on any matter that is before any county agency or department, even if it's not your own. This means that you cannot be paid by an outside person or organization to represent them or perform services on any matter before the county, even if the matter is with a division of the county other than yours, and even if you will not personally appear before the agency. For example, let's say an outside client wants you to prepare drawings that will be submitted to the Department of Public Works. You will never appear before the county, and let's say you work in the fiscal office. You would not be allowed to do this because you cannot receive compensation from a client to do work on a county matter, even if your name or face aren't attached to the work, and even if it's not before your department or agency.
As with most of ethics law, conflicts of interest issues are extremely complex and fact-specific, so please reach out to our agency when you first become aware of a potential issue so we can help guide you in making a decision that won't have negative repercussions in the future.
As a general rule, you cannot do business with your public employer. This means you can't sell goods or services to the county, and this is true whether there's a written contract or not. You can have no part in authorizing a contract that could benefit you, your family, or your business associates. If the county is spending money on something with which you have a connection, please reach out to the Agency of Inspector General to make sure you're not breaking the law. For instance, if there's a county grant to a nonprofit you're involved with, or a contract with your spouse's employer, or if the county wants to buy something from a business you co-own, there could be an issue. The benefit to you or a person or organization connected to you doesn't have to be financial for it to be a problem. So if you serve as an unpaid board member for a nonprofit that receives operating funding from the county, it could be just as big a problem for you as if you directly sold the county goods.
There are very narrow exceptions to this general rule. However, they require such a detailed level of analysis, and there is so much at stake that we won't even address them today other than to say, come to us so we can help guide you through this type of issue. It is important to note that this is a criminal statute and a violation could result in a felony. So anytime you or someone close to you could stand to profit from a contract with the county, please reach out to us.
There are very strict rules on whether and when someone in public service may accept a gift. The gift can be anything of value. Common gifts that those in public service may encounter are meals, travel, discounts, conference fees, and entertainment, as well as gifts around birthdays and holidays. In deciding whether you may keep the gift, it is important to look at who wants to give you the gift. If the giver of the gift is a person or entity who does business with the county, is seeking to do business with the county, or is regulated by or interested in matters before the county, then you cannot accept or solicit a gift from that person if the gift is significant. There's no hard and fast rule about what is considered significant or what dollar amount is deemed significant. So you should always err on the side of caution and reach out to us for guidance.
Even if the gift is not significant, you are never allowed to accept something that is intended to influence your official duties. The County Ethics Code doesn't allow you to accept any gift from someone if a decision you have to make could affect their interest, even if the gift would usually be something that is considered insignificant and allowable. For instance, if you are reviewing proposals for an upcoming county contract and the president of a company who submitted a proposal wants to buy you a coffee, don't take her up on it. Also, gifts should never go up the chain of command. It is almost always true that subordinate employees should never buy any gift, regardless of its significance, for their boss or anyone above them in the reporting structure.
As with most everything, there are exceptions which may apply. For instance, reasonable, customary gifts for special occasions are usually okay. Special occasions include things like marriage, illness, retirement, and the birth of a new baby. But they do not include birthdays, and they certainly do not include Boss's Day. It's usually okay to accept meals and refreshment of an ordinary character if you're speaking at a professional event or if you're attending a fundraiser or community event.
There are many factors that must be taken into consideration in determining whether a gift is appropriate, such as who is giving the gift, why they are giving the gift, how many public employees they are giving the gift to, and how significant the gift is. This area is very fact-specific, so please come to us before accepting any gifts so we can help you act within the rules.
You cannot accept any rewards or gifts for the performance of your county duties from any source other than the county. Your county salary and county benefits are the only compensation you should receive for your county work. You can never accept a gift as a thank you for performing your public service, whether the gift is of significant value or not. The County Ethics Code presumes that a gift is intended as a reward for official action when the gift is from a private person or organization that has obtained county action that involved your participation within the preceding year.
All thank you gifts are prohibited, whether it's to compensate you for a specific action or decision, or just for the general performance of your job duties. So you cannot accept a gift from a developer whose loan you just helped finalize, nor can you accept a gift from a member of the public as a thank you for your public service.
Whether you are allowed to engage in certain types of political activity often comes down to whether you are unclassified or classified. In general, unclassified employees are not restricted from engaging in any type of political activity, as long as it's on their own time and they don't use county resources or misuse their county position. However, classified employees have much stricter rules, and while they can still participate in activities such as registering, voting, contributing, and expressing opinions, they cannot participate in any partisan political activity. So for instance, classified employees cannot campaign for a candidate for partisan elective office, solicit money for any political party or partisan candidate, or participate in any activity that is geared towards party success.
Whether you are unclassified or classified, you are never allowed to donate to or solicit donations for the re-election campaign of your own currently elected employer or confirming authority, just as those elected officials are prohibited from soliciting or accepting campaign contributions from you. You may, however, make voluntary campaign contributions to other political parties or candidates for any other public office. For example, if you work in an executive agency and the current county executive is running for re-election against an opponent, you would be allowed to donate to the opponent's campaign, but not the current county executive's campaign.
Up until now, we have talked about all the things the County Ethics Code prohibits you from doing, but these next few topics address the actions the Ethics Code requires you to take. The first is with regard to secondary employment. If you have any outside employment that the IRS wants to know about, then we want to know about it too. You must file a secondary employment disclosure form that can be found on our website. And once received, we will determine whether your outside position and your county position are compatible, and whether there are any conflicts of interest that would prohibit you from holding both.
Disclosure is also required if you have a fiduciary interest with an entity and that entity receives funding from the county. This is required even if the position you hold is uncompensated. So for instance, if you are on the board of a nonprofit and that nonprofit receives any amount of money from the county, you must disclose that to our agency even if you are not paid for your services.
In either case, you are required to disclose within 30 days of accepting your outside position, but we encourage you to disclose as soon as possible so we can help you avoid any potential problems.
While you are in your county position and for 1 year after you leave, you cannot do any work for an outside person or entity if that work is related to a matter in which you personally participated in your county position. So if you worked on something for the county, you cannot then go and work on that same matter for another person or organization. For instance, if the county contracts with a vendor for one of its various programs, and your job with the county is to do work involving that program, you cannot go work for that vendor on the same program for 1 year after your service with the county ends.
You are required to disclose to our agency anytime you are seeking employment with an entity that is doing business with the county. seeking to do business with the county, or is in any way interested in matters before the county or regulated by it. This disclosure is required when you take any steps to seek employment with such an entity, including responding to a job advertisement or sending a resume. It's not just limited to when you receive a job offer. The Agency of Inspector General will help guide you to make sure that you don't unintentionally violate any ethics laws, both while you are still employed by the county and with any future employer.
A whistleblower is someone who reports wrongdoing, and that report is referred to as a whistleblower complaint. The County Ethics Code requires you to report known ethics violations of Cuyahoga County employees, elected officials, and board members. There is no guesswork involved. If you know of an ethics violation, you must make a whistleblower complaint in order to be in compliance with the Ethics Code. If you see any activity that you think might be contrary to law or regulation, or any evidence of fraud, waste, corruption, or abuse, it is easy to report and you will be protected from retaliation. And this is true even if you were wrong, as long as the reporting was done in good faith. If you make a whistleblower complaint and then experience retaliation, you may file a complaint with the Personnel Review Commission, who will then determine if retaliation occurred and issue an appropriate remedy.
It's easy to make a whistleblower complaint, and you may do so in a number of ways. You can choose to report in writing or verbally, and if you don't feel comfortable disclosing your name, you may report anonymously. You can choose to report to our agency, one of your supervisors, or the Department of Human Resources.
To those employees who are supervisors or are in HR, you have additional responsibilities. You must never retaliate against a whistleblower, and if a whistleblower comes to you with an ethics violation, you need to ensure that it gets into the right hands. This means that if the whistleblower complaint is verbal, you must prepare a written record. Supervisors, you must notify either our agency or HR within 5 days of any whistleblower complaint you receive. And to those employees in HR, any whistleblower complaint you receive must be given to our agency within 5 days.
There's truly no wrong way to contact our agency. You can call, write, or visit us in person. Whether you have a question about taking a certain action without violating the ethics code, or if you have information about a violation, we want to hear from you. And we want you to reach out in a way that works best for you.
We hope there are many takeaways from today, but the two most important takeaways are to ask before you act, and if you see something, say something.
And remember, there's no wrong way to do either.
Thank you for your time today and for all that you do for the county.
Any questions? Well, I'll ask one question. In one of the slides, you discussed gifts, and then you went separately to political campaign contributions. Simple question, if you have a fundraiser, how do you determine, and tell me how that works, a fundraiser and individuals who might, did that gift component
So
speak to,
you're saying you're attending a fundraiser and you get a gift?
or as an elected official who is,
As an elected official, then you're not supposed to accept it.
and what is it that they're not accepting? Someone who had a contract with the county, or what is it?
Well, it's saying
What is
that,
the gift?
yeah, the gift can be anything at that point, because they're saying that, and someone in your position, it's like giving you a bribe if you're accepting a gift. So it's not something that you would accept if you're helping out with that. Now, if I go to an event, it would be the same type. If I go to an event, and as the event, they're giving out bags with gifts in them, that's different. I can accept that. But yeah, if you're helping out with campaigning, they're giving out, depends on what the gift is too. If it's a small item in a bag that has, I don't know, a stress ball or something in it, and it's not expensive, that's okay. But if it's something that's larger, they're saying you should not accept it.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. All right, well, if nothing else holds our attention, our meeting is now adjourned, and we...